Before we get into the actual video, I wanted to make a quick addendum to my Centurion Devastators video. There is a way to make them quite good using this nerd early adventurers to give them deep strike. They jump on and off the board in a mana unit of 6 in the Vanguard Spearhead Detachment, and they blow up the tanks real good with all those las cannons. However, I still hate them. They're ugly as sin, and this helmet looks like it is from the N64. Back to the video. Kayvaan Shrike earned his place as the Chapter Master while serving as the captain of the 3rd Company during the Prefectaria campaign against the Tau, which was a defeat for the Imperium, but Shrike kept the losses of the Imperium to a minimum despite the loss of their Chapter Master. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we are covering Kayvaan Shrike of the Raven Guard for the Codex Space Marines, as I work my way through all of the characters in the Codex. So Kayvaan Shrike comes in at 100 points. He moves 12 inches thanks to his jetpack. Jump pack, sorry. He's toughness 4 with a 3+ save and a 4+ invuln with 5 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC 1, so fairly standard for a Captain Chapter Master equivalent. His ranged weapon is Blackout. It's his special pistol, which is precision and pistol. At the 18-inch range, it has 2 attacks that hit on 2s at strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2, so decent enough for sniping-like characters. And then his melee weapons are the Raven's Talons, which are precision and twin-linked with 7 attacks, at weapon skill 2+, strength 5, AP 2, and damage 2, so very good at ripping apart Space Marines and most kinds of infantry, just thanks to their weight of attacks. In terms of abilities, he innately has Lone Op, Stealth, and Deep Strike. His main rule, though, is Shadow Master. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit cannot be targeted by ranged attacks unless the attacking model is within 12 inches. This is fantastic, as it gives your entire unit Lone Operative that can't be bypassed. Echo of Ravenspire means at the end of your opponent's turn, you can take his unit and pick them up and put them in a strategic reserve, so long as they aren't in engagement range. And his Inspiring Command applies to Jump Pack Intercessors, who have OC2 while they are not battle shocked if this model is in your army. So obviously, he would sort of be your key character for playing Raven Guard if you so wanted to. He's just, of course, Kayvaan Shrike with the Blackout Raven's Talons. He has Chapter Master, Fly, Jump Pack, Phobos, and Character as his keywords. Overall, for 100 points, this is quite a solid utility package, along with some very nasty melee, thanks to the Raven's Talons, and he's honestly not that bad of a sniper for certain characters in his weight class. In terms of buffing options, he has 2, which would be the Jump Pack Assault Intercessors, which of course is an 8 OC buff, means they are much better at taking objectives. They're already a very good utility unit, so this makes them even better. Their Mortal Wound ability does mean they can chip in against anything, even if it's not by much, and of course their own damage output is pretty decent against infantry. Their main value, though, is how hard they are to destroy, because you force enemies to get close, which is easier said than done, since they can move so freely, grab objectives, and also just jump off the board if things are starting to get a little close, which can be very frustrating to fight against. And then you have the Vanguard Veterans, who are not as strong on the objective side, as of course they remain OC1, though they can carry some fancy pistols, as I believe with the Lone Op rule, you don't necessarily need the invuln from shields, just because you will be much harder to shoot in general. And the lethal hits is definitely a nice bonus to help punch up, though I think it sort of balances out as the Vanguard Veterans lack any weapons higher than Strength 5, so they will struggle to scratch tanks really still. And even Kayvaan generally struggles with that, but his Twin Links does help. The lethal hits help, but as I was saying, the fact that they lack a Power Fist or anything means they aren't going to be that effective at taking down hugely armored vehicles as the Assault Intercessors, or I'd say they're about even, given the differences in their things. They get lethal hits, they get the mortal wounds on the charge. I think it's a wash, right? They both do about the same thing to enemy armor. Out of the 2, though, I'd say Assault Intercessors are probably the better of the 2, just because you get access to a fancy weapon on the Sergeant, and also better OC without losing really that much combat effectiveness. Moving on to detachments, we only have to cover the Codex ones. So starting with Gladius, Honor the Chapter is fantastic, as is Advance and Charge. He does great here, of course, but +1 to wound with Twin Link is just really good. Siege Force, he doesn't benefit from himself, but I think he would actually make a pretty solid unit here, just as a defensive line that your enemy can't shoot while he protects the stationary firepower. Iron Storm is pretty much the same as Siege Force, though just more so for vehicles. And then Firestorm is actually pretty interesting. Advance and Shoot is definitely nice, and the +1 strength brings his pistol to a interesting breakpoint, making him an absolutely excellent sniper against things like Guard, Eldar, and Sisters characters. And +1 to wound from Crucible of Battle is definitely handy when you're not fighting the Oath of Moment target. Stormlance gives you Advance and Charge, which is just fantastic, as you'll have a massive threat range. Definitely some risk of some first-turn charges if you're going second. Though, funnily enough, in Vanguard, he really doesn't benefit that much from the detachment, as he can only be shot if you're within 12 inches, and the rule only applies outside 12 inches, of course. So the reactive move is definitely nice, same with Stormlance, just to jump out of range of someone trying to shoot you. And then First Company is not a very good detachment, but he can lead Vanguard Veterans, so if you want to use that detachment, this is one of the characters that I would recommend. And then Librarius Conclave has one stratagem he can use, which gives him +2 strength, which is actually pretty nice on a twin-linked weapon like his claws, and extra speed for a force that tends to be rather slow. This isn't really the place for him, but he definitely could fill a niche in that role. I just think other characters and other epic heroes do better in Librarius Conclave. Moving on to competition, there's 3 main ones. Of course, the Captain and Chaplain are just Codex units. The Jump Librarian is Legends, but I still wanted to include him. The Jump Captain gives you free strats, which is very handy, and of course he gives you that +1 strength, which is pretty handy as well. But the free strats are the main thing. They let you pump the damage output in certain areas, like free Honor the Chapter, and so on. The Jump Chaplain gives you +1 to wound, is pretty handy for helping the units that they would jump into to punch up a lot more. And the Librarian gives you extra AP, which is also very handy just because the jump units are pretty much unanimously stuck with AP1 weapons, which is pretty handy to get that up to at least AP2. Out of these 3, I think they're all very solid choices. Kayvaan just offers a different thing in more dedicated damage in himself, as well as the utility of not being able to be shot at, which makes enemies like the Tau, who Kayvaan Shrike absolutely messed up, very upset. Very fitting, because Shrike obviously thwarted the Tau at every turn during his the third sphere expansion. So he's just sort of a different breed of character than a lot of these guys are. Not so much a buffing as he is utility. Kayvaan Shrike, though, is pretty straightforward. He is definitely very powerful. His melee is really savage against infantry, though unlike someone like Torgaradon or Marnius Calgar, he really can't destroy tanks. He needs +1 to wound to do that, which he can get and do it very well. And his unit loves the lone operative rule. It means things like plasma guns, bolters, whatever they may be, need to get a lot closer, of course. Everything needs to get closer. I don't know why I singled those 2 out, but it just makes it a lot... The unit becomes really hard to destroy just because of how fast it is and how it can redeploy. And that he actually can't be picked out by Vindicares because that isn't a lone operative rule, so it can't be bypassed by the Vindicare. Gives his unit great OC, which is very good, and their damage is still very savage for what most people would generally see as a utility unit. With Assault Intercessors especially, you can use those mortal wounds to soften up a target for something like Terminators to finish in combat, or for just finishing off a wounded target. If there's an enemy knight that's on like 2 or 3 wounds, him and 5 Intercessors will almost certainly destroy it before it even fights. And even if he's just accomplishing objectives every turn, he can still earn his points that way. They are very much like the perfect utility unit, but don't underestimate them because of that. Anyone who treats them as that is going to get a nasty surprise when Kayvaan rips them to shreds with the Raven's Talons. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.